Hey guys, I hope everyone had a good weekend. I've been moving all weekend, so I'm absolutely shattered. Every single muscle of mine is aching, but in for another week. So I actually put some notes together for this for last week because I thought we were going to be presenting. So I just thought I'd go through those notes. I did do two sessions. I'll probably just go through one because there's quite a few notes. So trying to keep it just to a couple of minutes it will be tough over two sessions. But I did one session with Mark Bees on a Thursday afternoon, and I did another one with Joe Brown, which is a digital session. But I might just recap on that very quickly at the end. All right, so first session was a foot golf session with about 25 learners with Mark Beads on a Thursday afternoon. What I picked up from it immediately was when I went down to say, where are we going? He said, just come to my office and we'll go up to the top field. Is that he openly admitted that he didn't have a lot of time to plan the session. For me, picking up Mark's really experienced and he's always done that quite a bit. I think Gene's used the term writing a session plan on the back of a fag packet before, and if you're able to do it in that way, then fair enough. I wouldn't have felt comfortable. I would have felt a bit of a panic and a bit of a fizz about not having a planned session and knowing exactly what I'm going to do when in good time for me to sort of compute what I'm going to do. He is quite experienced in that, but for me personally, I picked if I had done it in that way, I knew I would have been in a bit of a panic and felt really rushed. There wasn't much in the way of daily review. I think this because of the session, the way that it was is basically he just wanted to get them out on the top field because it was one of the best and sunny days that we had in that week. He just wanted to get them out on the top field and doing something a bit active. So there's no real link to learning. So I think it was a bit of a one-off and maybe not necessarily the best one for me to go and view, but I found it useful for a few different reasons anyway. But I didn't see any evidence of daily review, and stickability might have been a bit of an issue in that open environment anyway, with the level of learner not having something to actually look at and remember what happened from last week if there was any sticking points that he wanted. So that was the first point I picked up on, the first couple of points. I will just say when I went into the observation, I will admit myself that I didn't actually look at the classroom and saw that there was a peer observation form. I did afterwards see that, but I'd already sort of linked it to theory as well because I knew that's sort of what Gene wanted, but I didn't see the peer observation form. So another thing I picked up is a really excellent relationship builder. So great at making students feel that they were at home and that incorporate like a lot of humour into the students to make them feel at ease when they're arriving. Again, for me at the moment, I've got 300 plus students on the EAP. And for me at the moment, I'm still just trying to figure out everyone's names when they're coming into class. I've got told learners as well. So I've got one group in for a whole week and then another group out for a whole week, and then they swap over. So I get different students every week in different classes as well. So just trying to remember names at the moment is a battle. But I am getting there with it, and I'm finding it better when we're actually arriving in classrooms. If I can have a bit of narrative with them about what they've been doing with last week, how they got on with the content, if they're doing it online, and that sort of thing. So actually, just remembering names is a big one for me. But I am getting there with it. But I thought that, again, related quite nicely to Professional Standard 6, so building positive and collaborative relationships with colleagues and learners, which I've added to my RDP. I think that's enough on that one. I won't go to that bit. So following the warm-up, he was great at space learning, which I thought was particularly important with the level of learner. So it was the supported learning group. He did differentiate between learners and made sure that he was checking understanding of a number of them and scaffolding where he could. So expanding on his explanation with a few of them, so he wasn't overloading particular students that were struggling with how to understand how the foot golf session worked. He did use sequential teaching, but there there was part he needed to so the learners the students needed to add up their scores, so they were kicking footballs into hoops in pairs, and what he didn't do is ask the students to add up their scores at the start. He did it halfway through, so a lot of them forgot what their scores were, and I think that was one point which I thought I might have maybe put in as into the introduction and made sure they were understanding that before the session started. But at the same time, again, level of learner, I think that might have created cognitive overload and maybe confused a few when they're just trying to work out what they're doing with the session to start with, and that some needed some scaffolding before just to get to that point. So I saw where it was coming from in letting them know halfway through, but some was forgetting their scores. So what else have we got? So Mark was checking understanding of the task. They were complete with a few learners. So for praise, he was really good for praise. So he was consistent with sort of motivating the learner, relating to professionals out of 13, keeping their attention. He did embed maths and English into it as well, quite nicely. Again, after explanation about halfway through, and using retrieval through questioning. He's quite lenient in how many were getting it right, but at the same time, when he didn't explain it to start with, it was quite lenient in how many he was asking and getting it right, and then asking them to maybe go back and think about the answer to that question. I don't know. So the additions that I've made to my RDP were the building more relationships with a bit more funny, more humour, I think they'll enjoy the session a bit more. Lots of praise and just asking more questioning. I thought he was really good in relation to questioning, and I've related to the Dylan Williams effective questioning suggestion of equity of learning. So making sure that we're making our students participate rather than having the choice to necessarily whilst they're in class. Again, there's a combination between my first point in building relationships and making sure I've got their names right, and making sure that my retrieval practice is equal among all of them, and asking more questions. So a combination of those things, I think, will lead to a better teaching style. I won't go through the session necessarily because the minute is probably going over 3 minutes now. So I've made some additions on my observation for Joe Bryan's session, which was digital. And they were expansion on the length of my daily review. So I think she had like 15 minutes into an hour session just on last week's session. And I teach 2 and 3 hour sessions, and I only put in 5 or 10 minutes. And I think it's really important to go back on what they've learned as we've obviously gone through on the course, and allocating a bit more time to checking understanding of previous content. I found myself really enjoying I haven't done any like qualification in English for a long time. And I forgot how much I enjoyed it. So I'm going to find a free online course of GCSE English just to go through, because I think I've got some forgotten knowledge in there in relation to putting pen to paper and how a sentence and paragraph should necessarily look. So definitely improving my sort of knowledge of that subject area, and relating that back to PS16, so addressing maths and English needs of my learners. And then I've also got introducing more scaffold through delivering content in smaller steps. I think I tend to overload and just everything at once a lot of the time. So maybe just spacing out my learning a bit more. And I think that was it. So yeah, those are my additions to my RDP from my peer observations last week. Cheers. Bye.